we go. There we go. That's sweet. That's freaking sweet. Oh my God. Oh, someone, hold on, let's see if we can get that thing going again. There we go. As I was mentioning, in French class, my French teacher had a French version of one. So it goes, it says where I learned that Ushitoya means it tickles. So it's like, yay, Ushitoya. So I'm thinking of this thing doing that, which is just like double funny. Let's see if I can get this going again. But you gotta shake it, which is kind of more like, you know, shake me like a British nanny, you know? Like in Family Guy, it's like, you're supposed to tickle him, not shake him, but you gotta shake it to make it work. That tickles. Let's see if we can get it to work again. Come on. All right, I'm having way too much fun with this, sorry. Keep it going here. All right, I'm sorry. I get distracted. There we go. I'm sorry. Me? ADD? Never. All right, if I can get quiet in here. Go for it.
Sex and the fetish is a fascination of yours and a hobby and area of research. Is it also your profession?
I'd like to make it my profession someday.
Get into it as an education, and think you'll get into it as a profession?
How did I get into it as an education? I read books. Read a lot of books. I had sex. I'm not gonna say I had a lot of sex, but I certainly had my share of sex. I've talked to people. I've talked to a lot of people. That's pretty much basically it. There is a history in the sexual education community of being self-taught, and I don't just mean having sex with people, although there's a very well-respected sexual educator who goes by the name of Annie Sprinkle, and she started out as a porn star. She started out as a porn star who would do absolutely pretty much anything in porn. She did a lot of golden shower videos, and she wanted basically to have as many sexual experiences as possible, and she basically wanted to have as much sex as possible with as many men and women as possible. She wasn't a slut. I mean, she's a very highly intelligent woman. She was just really interested in this. I'm sorry, go back to your question again.
The second question is how because you said you liked it to be your profession.
Yes.
How?
I'd like to know that. That would be nice. I'm still figuring this part out.
It's obviously the talks.
I'm figuring. I've done a lot of one-on-one education, and I don't mean in the bedroom. I mean like friends. People will come to me and want to learn about something, and all right, I'll meet you at this time online. You know, I'll IM you, and I'll just start talking to you, and I'll start teaching you. How am I going to do this professionally? There are professional sex educators with places like Planned Parenthood and stuff. There are a number of people who do basically the kind of thing I want to do. Annie Sprinkle, Tristan Taormino. I could rattle a bunch of names off the top of my head. I'd like to talk to them someday and get to know what they've done to do it. I think they've just basically started doing talks, and eventually along people started wanting to pay them for it, and that's pretty sweet.
In the other room, you said that if people want to get into BDSM, they ought to go to a large city and ask people there if there's some kind of group in their local area. But there is a website that you can go to, domsubfriends.com, and it lists BDSM resources all around the world.
Excellent.
It's very detailed. It has just about everything you can think of on there.
Wonderful.
Links to on their websites. Also, people like Tristan Taormino, they do talks here locally. Like at the Dom Sub Friends meeting at panels. They have a different topic every week. Tess has different meetings every week.
Of course, yeah.
Here in New York also.
Yeah, Black Rose has meetings every week in DC and stuff like that. So, well, I have to admit, as I mentioned a couple times, I was really nervous up there and my brain wasn't in complete working mode. Look on the internet for the large group, and then you can always possibly email them.
So there aren't any meetings here, but
I'm sorry, I can't hear you above whatever the hell's going on over there.
Okay, I would like, well, how many of you have ever heard of fertility awareness?
I've heard of it.
How much do you know about it?
I know pretty much as anybody else does.
So, it's a method of predicting ovulation based on taking your temperature every day and checking your cervical fluid. And it may not be the birth control method for everyone, but it is definitely worth reading if hormonal birth control does not work for you. There's a mind-blowing book called Taking Charge of Your Fertility, which you should look up and just, if you're a woman, read it. It doesn't matter if hormonal birth control works for you now, but it's fabulous information. So,
There's been different studies on the effectiveness of it. It does work for some women, it doesn't work for other. Personally, I'm not gonna take that risk. Although I will admit, I'm a person who highly believes in layering your birth control methods. We learn at least I learned in school, I was lucky. I grew up in a very conservative part of Pennsylvania, but yet I somehow had comprehensive sex ed. Don't know how I pulled that off, but I got real lucky. We learned in school, the rhythm method is really low stuff. Fertility awareness has, varying degrees of efficacy. Pulling out has varying degrees of efficacy. But I'm a big person who likes to pile them onto each other. Like, I want to know what the studies are. How about fertility awareness with condoms? What's the efficacy of you when you put them together?
you can look it up. It's about the same as the pill if you have self-control, which is the big problem for most people.
Yeah.
There was a recent study done in Germany with hundreds of couples, thousands of cycles, and actually it was about 1 or 2% failure.
So there you go. Like I said, I'm really big on layering your methods. It's like,
It's not for
why
everyone, but it's
why
actually
take risks? That's always my thing. Why take risks? I mean, if you really don't want to get pregnant, if you really don't want to get an STD, don't take the risk. It's just not worth it in the end. You can always go home. You can always masturbate. Yeah, sex with a partner is fun, but is it worth it if something really bad's going to happen? That's your personal choice. I'm not going to say which way you should go on that because I have absolutely no right to tell you. But for me personally, I don't think it's worth the risk. So, any questions? Any discussions? You're all just sitting there listening. Stop. Listen. My voice is not that fascinating. There we go.
Okay, I have to ask two things. One is, you earlier mentioned what sounded like a machine that could make you shoot lightning bolts from your hand. I don't know, superhero movie?
It's not like, it's not going to jump a gap like this. You're not going to be Emperor Palpatine. No. But wouldn't that be cool? Come to the dark side. Bzzz. No. It'll jump a gap. I don't know, what's that, about a centimeter? It's about a centimeter, and it's a teeny little spark. It's a tiny, teensy-weensy, miniature little lightning bolt. It's no Emperor Palpatine kind of thing. And what I was talking about was a violet wand. So does that answer I'm sorry?
What is the machine called?
The machine, someone asked what the machine's called. It's called a violet wand.
Violet or violet?
Violet, like the color, V-I-O-L-E-T. No, not violent wand. No, not violent wand. Violet wand. The funny thing is, they've been using these for like centuries. Like you can get antique ones that they were using them for interesting quack medical purposes and stuff. So with the older machines, you got to be really careful though because the wiring might not be that good. Caveat emptor. But they've had them around for a very long time. Next question.
Actually, I have a question and also a few book recommendations.
Sure.
I guess I'll start with the book recommendations.
Go for it.
A really great book that I read, and I don't know if you read it or what you thought of it, was The Disinformation. It's published by Disinformation Publishers. It's called Everything You Know About Sex Is Wrong.
I know their titles. I've never had a chance to look at that one.
It's a really, really good book.
Is it cool?
Yeah, it's really good. It's got a lot of, I can't remember any of the authors' names off the top of my head.
It's okay.
Due to lack of sleep, but it's got a lot of really good, it's just, it's in the format of 50 to 100 shortish articles,
Interesting.
about the length of 2,600 articles about various topics related to sex.
Fascinating. That's really cool. If I could just interject just for 2 seconds. You mentioned something that's this is totally off topic, my pet peeve of the calm. People, please go get sleep. You're going to function better. You're going to be happier. Things are going to stick in your mind better. Get some sleep each day. Get plenty of liquids. Take a shower. Please. After this, go to bed. I'm your mom. No. Hey, over 2 days. No, not pretty good. Over a day. That's okay. Anyways, go ahead. I'm being momish here. Sorry.
The other book is called The Ethical Slut.
Oh my God, I love that book. Oh, don't get me started. I had,
Polyamory.
Yes, it's about polyamory, open relationships, other ethical forms of sleeping around, which is something I didn't get to go into. And apparently somebody talked about on the informal track earlier today, and I wrote on it, whoever gave this talk, please get in touch with me. I'd love to talk to you. But yes, if anybody has any, I personally am polyamorous. If anybody has any questions about that, and by God, for the love of God, go out and get The Ethical Slut. I have a number of the other, pretty much all the books in print on polyamory, and everyone says, well, The Ethical Slut's not, it's more about the sleeping around part. It's not about the whole love part. I've tried to read the books on the love part. They're dry. One of them said something about you can't really be polyamorous unless you're spiritual, which is, in my opinion, yes, thank you. Absolute bullshit in my experience. Yes, you can be poly and be an atheist. There's plenty of poly-atheists out there.
You read Wendy O'Maddock's book?
Yes, that's the other one I was going to recommend. I like this guy. It's called Redefining Our Relationships by a woman named Wendy O'Maddock. It's another good treatise on open relationships.
I feel like she talks about love in that, though.
She does talk about love in that, which is cool. She also has a really cool section, not written by her, but by one of her friends, about being poly with kids, which is a really neat section. I don't even have kids. I don't want to have kids, but it's still a really cool section. I really enjoyed it.
So the last two books I'm going to recommend, one is a zine about making your own DIY sex toys.
Oh,
I can't
really?
remember what it's called. But
Oh, no.
It's called DIY sex toys or something like that. It's like, it's a really, is that?
How have I not heard of this?
That's right.
It's called Go Fuck. Oh, how wonderful! It's called Go Fuck Yourself.
It's called Go Fuck Yourself. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, you need to. I gotta give you my email. You need to send me emails with this stuff because this just makes me very happy. Yay! Seriously, when I talk about sex, I get bouncy. It happens. I was just really nervous over there. Who has it?
Well, it might be at the Zine Library in New York. You have extra
There's a zine library.
Yeah.
Ooh, cool.
colors.
Oh, I'm going to Brooklyn tomorrow.
One in Manhattan somewhere. Probably now.
There's a zine. Okay, he said there's a zine library in Manhattan somewhere.
Library of Congress.
Like, oh, duh! I live in D.C. Library of Congress, of course. Okay, last book.
Yeah, so the last book is, it's a erotica book by this wonderful author named Midori. And it's
Oh
called
my
Master
God.
Khan's Daughter. It's a
I
cyberpunk erotic
love
novel. So
love
this is,
Midori.
like, special interest actors. It all takes place in Neo Tokyo, and there's like sex with robots and VR.
Is-
sex
I
and
have
shit
to
like
admit,
that. It's pretty crazy.
I probably shouldn't admit this. I'm probably going to, have the entire community down on my butt. I worked at a gay bookstore for a while, and the cover of it just turned me off. I felt I don't want to insult anybody who ever did the cover, but I just think that she's a fantastic writer. She's written a number of books, Wild Side Sex, I believe it's called. I haven't actually read that one. She did the hell is that noise? She did the toy bag guide on shoe fetishes and foot fetishes, and it was done in a way for people who aren't even fetishes that can get something out of it. I'm absolutely blown away by her writing style. She's wonderful. But I felt that the cover of the book really would turn people off. It wouldn't get people into reading it. Is it really good?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay, I gotta go get that one.
It's like erotica in the William Gibson universe.
Okay,
Basically.
William Gibson, he wrote Neuromancer?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. There's another book. There's a woman named Cecilia Tan who basically started writing and publishing sci-fi erotica, and especially BDSM sci-fi erotica before it was available. The first thing that she made up was just printed out herself was a little chapbook called I think it's called Telepaths Don't Need Safe Words. This woman, basically, she's in a way she's kind of my hero when it comes to like fandom sexuality and stuff like that. She would, in high school, dress up as Han Solo, even with the blaster guns, and like the teachers would give her hell for carrying around. She's like, dude, I'm the class valedictorian. Don't give me shit for this. And she started her own press called Circlet Press. So if you're into sci-fi erotica, if you're into sci-fi BDSM erotica, horror erotica, stuff like that, go check them out. They are wonderful. They are out of Cambridge, Massachusetts.
So this is my last thing to say, and then I'll stop talking about
Okay.
do you know anything about, I heard a while ago that they'd come out with a male birth control, like some sort of male birth control bill, but I don't know if it ever got approved by the FDA, which.
They've been working on male birth control for a long time.
It's not gonna be that hard.
It is, unfortunately, and I forget the reasons why, but just specifically because of the way that testosterone works and the way that sperm production works, it is that hard, unfortunately. And I think part of it is and this is just me trying to pull this out of the cobwebs of my mind with, little sleep and not feeling so well, but I think it has to do with, you can get men not to be fertile, but then they can't get it up, I think is the problem. Or, I'm sorry? You said Viagra. I know that there are issues. I forget what they are. I probably said that wrong, and if anybody else knows what it actually is, please step up to the mic and tell me, because, like I said, I screw up too. I'm sorry?
Issues as far as what?
Issues with male birth control. They can't get it to work right.
Oh, well, it's mainly because, like as you said, the hormones interact such a way that you end up with erectile issues or you end up with drive issues.
I'm sorry, you end up with what issues? Actually, do you mind going up to the mic and saying this just so it gets recorded? So that I don't actually have to repeat all of it back into the mic, because I want to make sure it does get recorded.
Because the way the hormonal system works in guys,
Okay.
what tends to happen is you either end up with erectile dysfunction issues or you end up with lousy drive. And no, Viagra's not going to help because you still have to be aroused for that to work.
Yeah,
And it's
well
not
aware of this.
aphrodisiac after all.
No, it's not. Everyone thinks that guys are going to walk around with boners all the time if they take Viagra, which isn't true. You gotta have the will for it to go up.
Also, general comments what we're saying.
Sure.
One, you discussing the whole issue of anal stimulation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing that the women may find interesting, I guess some guys also may, because some of them do this other thing as well, is that for people who are too squeamish or whatever to do the finger up the boob hole deal, you can get some of the same benefits by stimulating the perineum, which is the little patch thing we call the taint, or
I hate that word. I hate that word.
Or whatever it is. Oh, not views. If you watch Jackass, they call it the gooch. If you've heard the sort of Jackass.
It's basically, in scientific terms, it's the place between the vagina and the anus, or the scrotum and the anus.
What's the technical term? Perineum.
Or perineum. I always pronounce it perineum. I've had other people say no, it's perineum. I don't know. I just seen it written,
In fact, it's putting pressure in that area will put pressure on the prostate externally.
This is true.
Probably not as effective, but it can work quite well. Another point is another sexual machine would be the Accujack, which has been out for many years.
I'm sorry, can you slow that down, say that again?
The Accujack is another machine that's been out for
Accujack.
years. It has both male and female attachments. It uses compressed air to operate them instead of wires, so probably it's safer. Can't speak for it personally, but it looks interesting. You saw the old
That's
ads
cool.
for it.
I watched recently, I've recently been TiVoing both Real Sex and Wired for Sex, and I've been watching them together, so I don't always remember which is on which, but I watched one on fucking machines, and one of the things was basically like kind of a penis pump tube with stuff on the inside that was hooked up with wires in such a way so that when the man thrusts, it will affect the vibrator on the other end, even if it's, all the way across the internet, and he'll thrust, and she'll feel something in the vibrator, so it's actually interactive, it's just really cool.
Yeah, there is a pair of devices like that they were talking about at one. I don't know how well they worked out in the real world, but they were talking that some years back. Also, not really terribly too relevant, but as far as the gay male subculture and the hanky codes, in my understanding, they mostly went out of favor years ago because people just talk directly.
There are some people who still use them, some people who don't. Dark bars is hard to see. Can you step up to a mic to say that, just so that we get the... Some places they do, some places they don't. I am in the queer community, and I've definitely seen them used, but it's not used the way it used to be, unfortunately.
It wouldn't be so much because you don't need people to talk
You
directly.
were asking about me. I did a talk earlier in the Zeus room about hacking relationships.
Oh, cool! Hi, we should talk. Hi. If you want to go ahead, if you want to make some comments on polyamory or something, please feel free.
Well, I didn't see the rest of your thing. I think, did you do a little...
I didn't do anything on poly during my thing. I had no time to go into relationships at all. So I'm glad you talked about it.
Yeah, it was good times. I didn't really prepare for it, but I had like my main squeeze here, so it went pretty well. And the secondary squeeze isn't here, but whatever.
It happened.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. God, it keeps late in the day and one gets tired. But I'm sorry I missed it. Did you do one of these at the last Hope 2 years ago?
I did one of these the last time 2 years ago. I covered some of the material, but not other pieces of the material.
Okay. And
So.
teledildonics. It's just such a good word. You gotta use the word.
See, I prefer techno because not all teledildonics deal with tele.
Yeah, but
Some does, and for the ones that do, I'll call it that.
perineum, it's like a flower. It's such a pretty word. It's just
Because flowers,
and
blossoms.
teledildonics just rolls off the tongue in so many ways.
Teledildonics. Perineum. Did anybody here play SimCity 2000? When you were generating a landform, there was that lady's voice that went, reticulating splines. I will never forget that. Okay.
So there would have been a lot better of a segue like 2 people ago.
That's all right. Fuck
Talking about,
segues.
like, covers that turn you off to a book. So going back to the ethical slut.
It's a weird cover.
Yeah, it is.
It's a weird cover.
Yeah, it's so. I'm kind of wondering. You mentioned one book, I believe something relationship.
Redefining our relationships?
I'm wondering if they're because the ethical slut also has a very like we're old hippies vibe, which might turn some people off. But I'm wondering if you know of other books that come across as a bit more appealing to younger generation people that.
I never got that vibe from the ethical slut, but I could see how someone could. To my knowledge, these are the books that are in print on polyamory today. The Ethical Slut, Redefining Our Relationships may or may not be. Basically, anytime I find it in a bookstore, I pick up copies just in case it's not, because I don't think it is. That book has more of a radical left, DIY, almost anarchist kind of feel to it. It's certainly appropriate for people who don't swing that way, but it's just the community from which the person came from. There is one called, it's by Deborah Anna Paul. It's Polyamory, The New Love Without Limits. And I couldn't get through it. I have to admit, I could not get through it. This was the person who basically said that, you really have to have spirituality to be poly. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. There's one called by I think it's Anthony Ravencroft. It's Polyamory, Roadmaps for the Clueless and Hopeful. I love that title, because I can be clueless at times. It's also a bit dense at times. It's a conversational style, but it's not nearly as easy of a read as The Ethical Slut. And like I said, I worked in a gay bookstore, and we carried a bunch of these books, and as far as I know, those are the only books in print to this day. Opening Up? What's that one? I'm sorry. Can you step up to the mic or yell it louder so I can see you? Oh yeah, there is one for pagan polyamory. I forget who writes it, but I'm just talking about general ones if you're not into the whole pagan thing. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Vivian.
Hi.
I have a blog about sex and sexuality.
Cool.
Opening Up is Tristan Taormino's new book about polyamory.
Oh, cool. I hadn't heard of it.
So it's based on about 100 interviews. The website is openingup.net. She's doing a book tour now.
Wonderful.
Also, Anita Wagner's blog, Practical Polyamory.
I think I've heard of her. Is she kind of an older lady?
Yeah,
Grayish
she
hair?
started it after
I-
Dark Odyssey. Yeah, there's,
Which Dark Odyssey? Which year? Do you know?
Winter Fire last year.
Winterfire last year. Okay. I was at Winterfire this year.
And there's Cunning Minx's podcast,
Okay.
Polyamory Weekly, which is polyweekly.net, I think.
Wonderful.
If you Google Cunning Minx, you'll find it. So she has
Okay.
a podcast where she takes phone-ins, and she's got a very active blog and also a live journal, and she's also on Twitter. Thank you.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. Hi.
Hi. So getting back to the basics.
Okay. Basics are good.
I understand from a lot of articles and research that many women have issue with orgasm during intercourse.
Okay.
Whether it be just the way they're built, medication, stress of life, etc. Any number of reasons.
I'm aware of this issue.
Yes, yes. So I wonder if you could highlight some things that you have experienced or have knowledge of that would help this issue.
Certainly. Let's see here. Where should I start? Sometimes it's just the way you're built. It's where the clitoris is, and if it's being rubbed or bumped into while you're having sex or not, depending on the position. If you can find one that rubs your clitoris while you're having intercourse, it's helpful. I like big guys. Well, I'm bi. I like big guys. I like big girls. It's just the way I swing. And I found with big guys, oftentimes, that their bellies will bump my clitoris, which feels really good. So, which sometimes just doesn't happen with the skinnier men. This is my preference. Try different positions. Do not be afraid to get out the sex toys while fucking. This is something I forgot to mention earlier, and I wish I would have, because the greater audience needs to hear this. Bringing sex toys into the bedroom while fucking doesn't mean you're not a good lay. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. Hell, it means you are a good lay, because you're getting over your hang-ups and you're doing whatever it takes to have a good time and to feel pleasure. I also probably should have mentioned that, and I'm not putting down orgasm, I'm definitely going to continue answering what you're saying, but orgasm is not the be-all, end-all of pleasure. For years, I had the hardest time because I wasn't orgasming, and it was driving me fucking batshit. And now that I do orgasm, I can let myself go, you know what? The way we're fucking right now, we're tired or whatever's happening, I'm just not going to come, and that's okay, because I'm really enjoying the fucking that we are having. Sex toys. I was having actually problems with this with my current partner, and I was poly, and my other partner said, yeah, go ahead and while you're fucking, put the Hitachi magic wand on your clitoris while he fucks you, and yeah, it worked pretty well. So I definitely basically do what some women reach down and play with their clitoris with their fingers. That doesn't work for me, but it works for a lot of women. Basically do it once you figure out how to work with your clitoris to make yourself come, figure out a way to do that while you're having sex, whatever position you want. And sometimes, and also remember that, sex during penile vaginal intercourse is great. I'm sorry, orgasm during penile vaginal intercourse is great, but there's one thing I've learned from having a lot of girl-on-girl / lesbian sex, is that oftentimes with lesbians, they will, the one girl will get off and then the other girl will get off. You can take your turns, and it doesn't always have to be, I have to orgasm having this kind of sex. It's really great to just be like, hey, I had an orgasm. I mean, I will use my vibrator, I will masturbate, and I will have my partner sometimes just touch me or be there or talk to me or say dirty things to me or whatever, and it will get me off, and I will roll over and I will thank them for the orgasm because they helped, they participated. Sure.
Just to address that point from the guy's
Sure.
perspective.
Okay.
So I think a problem with a lot of the women is just that, I don't know, I've met
I
a
can
lot of
see.
girls or been with girls that had not orgasms or experienced many orgasms with previous guys. And I really think, guys, just be more attentive. And girls, don't be afraid to say, hey, you're not paying any attention to me. Because I just found that being really, really attentive and really trying to communicate, I've gotten some, I'm trying to, I don't want to sound like.
No, it's okay.
But,
This is a safe place to talk about this stuff.
My previous girlfriend, she went from having 3 orgasms before me with 7 partners to having almost every day or every other day. So just be attentive and,
This is a very important point. As a corollary to this, I've also had partners that are like, I want to get you off. That's what I'm into. I want to get you off. Your happiness is important to me. And if you're having problems orgasming, this doesn't help at all. Because then you're like, oh, I got to come. And it just adds more pressure to it. And sometimes you're just like, I know you like getting me off. I know you like making me happy. But remember, I can be happy without getting off. Just don't try so hard at it. It's important to be attentive. And as I said, sometimes I'm all about taking turns in the bedroom. I have attention deficit disorder. It does affect my sex life. I can get distracted even while having sex. It's got to be really mind-blowing for me to be able to stay completely focused. So I'm okay with, all right, we'll get you off this time and we'll get me off later, or we'll get me off this time and okay, I'm about to come, so we're going to get me off and then we'll get you off later. I'm a big proponent of taking turns. We learned about it in kindergarten. It's good stuff. Hi.
So sharing's a good thing.
Sharing is a very good thing. Sharing is for some people, sharing is not for other people when it comes to partners, but some people are poly, some people aren't. It's okay.
Yeah. I have a question.
Okay.
As a hacker and as an ex-raver, we always worry about, if we're going to get nailed by the law.
Okay.
And I
I used to live down in Texas, and I remember that there was a sodomy case,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and like, is there any tips or anything like that you can say that, you know, I'm not going to get busted by the cops if I try to, oh yeah, let me go to one of these, things as a branching out of my sexual experience, and then you know, cops walk in and, you know, bust everybody in the club.
To be honest with you, I live in the state that I live in intentionally because it has more open sex laws and because it has more open laws in general. I'm a big fan of, you know, like living in a state where your laws are what you want them to be. So I don't have much experience with this. I do know a little bit about something about Texas laws because there's a wonderful documentary out there which I would love to get a copy of, and if shameless plug. If anyone wanted to buy it for me, that'd be okay. It's called The Dildo Diaries, and apparently in Texas, I'm sorry about going off subject here for a bit, but if you own 6 or more dildos, you are assumed that you have intent to distribute them, and you can get in serious trouble with the law. However, if you have 5 or less, you are merely a hobbyist, and this is okay. Yeah, they can sell them as novelties or as representational models. You can't talk about using a dildo. They are educational models that are used to educate people in proper condom use. Ways to not get caught. Basically, in short, ways to not get caught. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Don't scream at the top of your lungs at 3 a.m. There's also the best thing to do, honestly, though, is off-site backups. Yes. No. Possibly as I said that there are BDSM groups in every area. Even if you're not into BDSM, these people definitely would know the laws better than this. There's also a wonderful, wonderful group called the NCSF, the National Coalition for Sexual Freedom. These people work with the laws, fight to get the better laws. These people would know the laws in your area and would be able to tell you things that you could. Basically, the NCSF is to the sex world that the EFF is to the electronic world and the hacking world. And they are a great group to go to for these kind of things.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Going back to teledildonics, you mentioned there were ones that sort of were programmable even through email and had bookmarks or favorites. What were those called again?
The one specifically that has the favorites setting is the, where's my thing? Oh well. It's the, okay, I just looked at the manual today at Babeland, crap. It's either the Jeju or the Sassi. And it's the Sassi, S-A-S-I. Both S's are capitalized, it's one word. And it is by the company that is by Jeju. J-E, capital J-O-U-E. Jeju.
And then just one other thing to mention is there used to be a community I found online for sort of building your own called /dong.
It's funny, I was going to mention them and I forgot to. Yes, /dong is great.
Anyone here interested in that would probably like that.
Yeah, I remember reading once that they were trying to make an open source protocol for sex toys for anyone to be able to use. I thought that was absolutely awesome. Closer to the mic.
First, I mentioned before about the erotic hypnotism.
Mm-hmm.
You said you had to give me like a website or something like that?
Yeah, I can give you a whole list of links.
Oh, do you have an email address? I can email you?
Certainly, I can definitely do that. As I said earlier, as people were leaving, I'm going to put a whole list of links up on cableflame.googlepages.com. As I said, right now it's just a whole bunch of BS that I put up there with the HD DVD key, because at the time that was the big thing. But yeah, there are a wide variety of links. I can tell you, if you go into Second Life, if you're into the erotic hypnotism, there is a store called Hypnodolls. This is certainly the place to go. Yes, I will admit, yeah, this is my lover's. He co-owns this store, but it really is the best resource for it. You can go there, you can talk to other people into it. I'm trying to think of other good resources for erotic hypnotism. So, okay, actually, here's the deal with erotic hypnotism. The main guild of that certifies hypnotists, the NGH, the National Guild of Hypnotists, who certified hypnotherapists and stuff, isn't to actually, if you'll hold on a second. Daniel, can you please give me the laptop? I actually wrote something about this. Can I get the laptop back, David? Thank you. Because of what they consider to be ethical concerns with doing erotic hypnotism, they think that there isn't a way to do it ethically. that anytime you would do it, you would automatically be taking advantage of someone, especially if you were a hypnotherapist because of the whole patient thing. And therefore, they, I have a good word for it here. I don't want to say the wrong word and be.
It's that for stage hypnotism too.
It's, yeah, they very much frown on sexuality because for many years, hypnotism was just seen as, where's my key? Okay. Hypnotism was just seen as something that was a joke or a trick, or people would use it in an unethical way, so they're trying to make their image look good. Well, they're doing this at the expense, thank you. They're doing this at the expense of sexuality. It kind of surprises me, because if these people are therapists, I mean, like, the psychology world is pretty okay with sexuality these days, but they really don't want to have anything to do with any kind of sexuality, to the point that, if they find out that a hypnotherapist is engaging in is even into erotic hypnosis, they can remove your credentials. I earlier mentioned that I have a friend like that. I know someone who's like this, goes specifically not only by a handle, but also by a fake name attached to the handle, so that he can be completely separated from this, because I mean, he's worried about losing his livelihood. And it just, frankly, if I may say so, it's not fair. And I'd like to go to the NGH and say, hey guys, read this, listen to this. There are ethical ways of doing it. People agree to it ahead of time. You can agree to what you want to do and what you don't want to do. And as the hypnosis people should know, there is such a thing as an abreaction. You're not gonna do something you don't want to do. You'll just be like, you'll either ignore it completely or you'll fall out of hypnosis. So this is an issue that basically that people need to be aware of, and which is why it's really hard to find good ethical erotic hypnosis links. The one I talked about, Lady Ruetha, she is very ethical. I've met her in person, she's a great lady. But there are a lot of people out there who are just, they're hypnodoms who are out there, to scam people, or who will do it and who don't hold themselves to the greater ethics. So you gotta, ask around, be kind of a caveat emptor kind of thing. There are groups to go. There is a mind control forum. There is a group of mind control stories, and there's a forum that goes with it. And these people will definitely be able to tell you who's good and who's bad and stuff like that.
And the reason I'm asking is because I'm married, and I know that my wife, her clitoris is like super like reactive, like really sensitive. So the only way that she can get off is with a vibrator. I'm trying to have sex with her, and if I hit it the wrong way, she'll like feel pain. So I wonder if the erotic hypnotism will help that, or I don't know if that will help that, or.
Where's the pen? Go back. Look. Okay. I'm sorry. I just realized that I've lost the pen here. Somebody's laptop. That's not mine. Oops. I'm sorry. Could you repeat that again?
Yeah. Is that my wife's.
Your wife's clitoris is super sensitive. She can only get off with vibration because touching it hurts.
Yes, exactly.
I have to admit, I'm the exact same way.
So
Yeah.
Hypnotism will help that, or?
I never tried erotic hypnotism for that. It might not. Something that I definitely forgot to mention about the erotic hypnotism, and I feel kind of bad about this. Before, my hypnotherapist friend said that before doing any kind of hypnotherapy, if you have any kind of organic mental disorder, which includes depression, which includes anxiety disorders, which includes bipolar or anything like that, please talk to your doctor ahead of time, because sometimes things can come up and things can happen, and you have to be very careful. This is what my hypnotherapist friend told me. I will be completely honest with myself. I have a mental disorder. I've never had any problems with it, but this is just me. It is up to you. I believe everybody has the right to make their own decisions on these things. Fixing that, I'm not sure. I mean, you might even be able to make her come without even touching her. So that certainly does help that problem. But I'm a very creative person when it comes to sex. I say give it a shot. The sky's the limit. Talk to other people who've done this before. Please step up to the mic. Or you can use this one in the front. I just realized there's a mic in the front.
You mentioned a lady, somebody or other, realm of...
Lady Ruetha. R-U''ETHA. ''ETHA. And it's called the Realm of Bliss podcast. It's wonderful, wonderful podcast. It has interviews on all sorts of things, on erotic submission, erotic dominance, she has an interview on technosexuality. She has an interview on inductions, on dual induction, which is where you're going to be hearing it in both ears, and they're going to put you under. It's really great.
Thoughts for the previous person with the oversensitive issue. Why can't you?
Oh, I'm sorry, not close enough. What comes to mind here possibly is, first of all, can you find a position that works for you that doesn't hurt her, even if it doesn't get her off? That's the first thing. If you can find that, perhaps you can get her off some other way afterward, with or without vibrator as needed. Obviously, if you can't, then you have an issue where you can't even really have sex with her because it's uncomfortable.
Well, that's what I do now. We take turns, like I said before. I'll go first, and afterwards, I'll help her go with the vibrator. Everything's happier.
But sometimes you want it to happen
Yeah, it's
with
just-
both people. And I get that. I totally do. It can be tricky. As I said, I've been studying sexuality since I've pretty much got out of high school, since I became sexual at 17, and I'm still figuring out how exactly I can come from fucking, and it's not always easy. It takes practice. We are imperfect beings. There is some frustration involved. I wish I had better advice for you. I really do. And if you figure something out, please send me an email. Tell me. I forgot my swag. Oh no, yes. I have swag from a wonderful sex store called Babeland. And they are sex positive, they are woman positive and queer positive. They are a very, very comfortable place to go sex toy shopping. I went there earlier today with a couple of attendees from the con, and we all had a wonderful time. And I was teaching some of the attendees at the con about stuff, and I ended up having people come up to me thinking I was a employee and asking me questions, and I said, I'm not an employee, but sure, I'll answer your questions. I like Babeland because it's very hands-on. Most places, you look at the vibrators in the boxes and try to make a choice from the really crappy packaging. They have one of everything available for you. You can touch it. You could take the dildos and you can shake them and you can see how rigid they are or how floppy they are. They have samples for some of the lubes there. You can feel them and you can even taste them if they're flavored. They have samples of all the condoms blown up just enough to see what they look like. It's a wonderful place. They have 4 different locations, 2 here in town, 1 in LA, and 1 in Seattle where they're started. There's also other places like this around the country. Good Vibrations, Early to Bed, Grand Opening. There's Come As You Are up in Canada. There's a whole wide variety of these places, and unfortunately, where I'm from doesn't have one. Maybe someday I'd open up one. That'd be really cool. But I highly recommend going to these places. Anyways, Babeland, I have brought buttons. Unfortunately, they're out of the Pet Your Bunny ones, but they have different ones. I have a bunch of pens from them, and right now they're having a big sale, 20% off almost everything in the store, and that can make a big difference when you're buying like a $110 dildo. Sorry, go ahead.
Actually, regarding dildos, don't scare your guy by thinking, you know what, this might be kinky, and then get some like humongous thing and then just like surprise him in the bed. That'll freak the guy out.
Yeah. Communication. Communication is the key here. This is a personal thing for me. I want to have a man who's comfortable enough that he doesn't mind if I use a dildo. Obviously, I'm not going to be like, honey, you want to try butt sex? And then I pull out the big one. You know what I mean? No, that's not cool, man. Start with the pinky, work your way up. I have a number of dildos, and some of them I specifically bought for butt sex, which are smaller ones. I have that's pretty big. Have a much thinner girth around there. Keys to butt sex. There's no such thing as too much lube. Start slow. Never go, if you're doing it on a girl, never go from the anus to the vagina. And work your way up to the larger stuff. Oh, and make sure you're relaxed. If you're not relaxed, do what you need to do to relax. And those like numbing creams, that's such a bad idea because no, you need to relax. If you're numb and you're tense and you're forcing it in, you can hurt yourself. This is bad.
Actually, regarding the whole books that you were talking about, I have one book that I personally like. It's called
Oh, cool.
If anybody, yeah.
I unfortunately don't know the male side of things very much at all, which is really kind of sad. Multi-orgasmic male, who wrote it? Send me an email on this. This is great.
Jump in at any
I can't remember who wrote it, but I absolutely, it's rather good.
Yes.
It's a good book? Okay, multi-orgasmic male. I'll have to remember that.
It's not stuff for the girls in there.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
Definitely, an obvious thing is, with males, is always the old edgy deal, they keep them on the edge, that you know, definitely still won't get done right.
If you didn't hear, he said, with men, keep them on the edge. Almost coming. It can feel like multiple orgasms if done right, is what he mentioned. Let's see here. We were talking about books, and I didn't get to mention some of my favorite books. And is there somebody coming up? If so, I won't talk about books.
I don't know if this is common knowledge, but I mean, one of my favorite erotic books would be the Anne Rice books, The Sleeping Beauty.
A lot of people seem to like those. I personally haven't read them, but
I think there's 3 of them, and they're amazing books. They're both for guys and women.
excellent. Go ahead.
Hi. There was a mind-body hack that you didn't touch on.
Okay.
I just wanted to get your take on it.
Okay.
Erotic asphyxiation.
Erotic asphyxiation. That is a mind-body hack. It can be a very dangerous one. You have to be very, very, very careful with it. You have to really know what you're doing. At the BDSM club I go to, it's called the Crucible. It's in DC, and they will have what's known as exploratorium nights, where traditionally when you do a scene, you play with someone or a number of someones, and other outsiders aren't allowed to butt in. You know, you have to get permission. But exploratorium nights, it's more of the people set up stations, they do little demos, and I actually got to do erotic asphyxiation with someone. The thing with this is, no matter what, there is always risk. There is always risk with erotic asphyxiation. Don't be like all the dumb senators and stuff that make the media by doing autoerotic asphyxiation, doing it on yourself and not having anyone around, and then they find you dead.
It's much more fun with someone else.
Yeah, it's much more. Yeah, it's much more fun with someone else too. And erotic asphyxiation can definitely be a head rush. It's not something I've done too much of. One, because I've had a number of partners that it's really not their thing. It's what's known as a hard limit for them. It's big no. It's traumatic for them, and just because of its danger. If that's something you want to do, read the hell up on it. Talk to people who do it. Just learn it and be very, very careful. And also, there's other ways of doing it, not just choking someone or taking their breath away, but like putting a gas mask on them and then put smelling salts in the tube or something. I remember they did that with me whenever I tried it. So, you're welcome.
I just wanted to say something about autoerotic or erotic asphyxiation.
Okay.
There was an article in a recent issue of Spread magazine about it, and they were saying that the basics of auto or erotic, if you're doing it yourself, best way to do it is just press your hands on the side of your neck to get that sort of sensation, and rest something on your face. And they were saying that if you're doing it with someone else, never use a rope or a scarf. Definitely do not use nylons to tie
Absolutely
tie
not.
around the neck.
Don't use nylons to tie yourself up, even if you're just doing bondage.
And do not use nylon on your face because it can rub on your face and burn. And there have been cases where people have been in an erotic asphyxiation situation and something's gone bad, and it's difficult to prove that you weren't trying to do it purposely.
Yeah. This is my personal thing. I just never do this alone. Something could go wrong. Please, you could die. And you don't want to be that person on the news who died from doing that. And also, unfortunately, because sex is still taboo, there are people who are into this who were experimenting with it as teens who died, and their families just call it a suicide because it's less, or say something happened because it's less traumatic. And the truth never gets out in these cases, but it happens more often than we think because of just stigma associated with sex. So please don't do this alone, please. Yeah, there are certain forms of BDSM play that are considered edge play, and some people consider that edge play. So be careful.
So this is a little bit of a change of subject.
Okay.
But you were mentioning earlier
I have the same problem. I was wondering if you would want to, like, I've never actually talked to any of you who have the same problem. I was wondering if you wanted to, like, enumerate on that.
Okay, sure. And I've never talked to a guy who's had the same problems with that, so this is going to be cool. Yay. Hey, sex is my thing. I get excited about this stuff. Let's see here. Let me actually think about this for a little bit. It's going to make me sound like, I'll be honest. I mean, yeah, some things we still do have stigma attached to, and it's just, I feel like this is going to make me sound like an idiot, but I mean, I can have a wonderful lover, very attentive, very doing everything right, and I still can't focus. It's just, I think it requires a certain amount of pleasure to get me to focus. And I mean, people are like, ADD isn't real. Well, the fact that they're like, well, if you really wanted to focus, you could. I'd like to focus on sex. Thank you. I'm in the bedroom. I'm with my lover. I'd like this to be good. And I just can't. I found that I take medication. I take Adderall for it. I found that being on my medication does help.
I found that I've had actually some like pretty intense feelings of guilt around it because, you're in bed, you're having sex with your lover, like you said, and you're like, why can't I pay attention to this person? We're having, ostensibly great sex, but thinking about like that spot on the ceiling.
Yeah, no, totally, and this does happen. There was a book called The Ultimate Guide to Sex and Disability. The old edition, I don't think it had depression, but not ADD. There's a new edition been put out. I haven't had a chance to look to see if it has ADD in it. There was a website called vaginapagina.com. Vagina, V-A-G-I-N-A, pagina, which means page in, I think, Spanish, P-A-G-I-N-A.com. And it was the first place I ever actually saw other places mentioned, other than books on ADD, that, yeah, you can have sexual problems with ADD with focus. I wish there were easy answers, but as you know, having ADD, there's oftentimes no easy answers to these things. Just please don't feel guilty. I mean, I know it's like I kind of have to take my own advice sometimes, but you can't help it. I'm sure your lover would say the same thing. And letting your lover know this ahead of time and telling them when you're like, yeah, I'm just not able to focus right now. I'm real sorry, sweetie. Can we try this? Can we amp up the pleasure? Can I get you off and we try again with me later? Stuff like that. Just one thing that I have noticed when I use taking turns as a way whenever I'm having sexual difficulty is you have to be careful that you do end up doing your own later, because sometimes people are prone to start just, every time it happens, letting your partner get off, and then you start feeling kind of like resentful, well, yeah, I sucked your dick this many times. Why won't you do this for me? Why can't I get off? And it's just, the relationships, as everyone knows, are a slippery slope, and you got to be careful.
But actually, one technique that I found for myself this work is actually doing a lot of talking dirty.
Okay.
Because I don't know what techniques you prefer, but for me, like, that keeps me engaged.
You know what? It does the same for me too, which is why I think I like role play so much. Seriously, I think because I have ADD is one of the reasons I really like role play, because I'm in the mindset of somebody else. I'm having to constantly focus on that mindset of someone else. And it's enough stimulation. When I masturbate, I fantasize in my head. Just the sensation alone is absolutely not enough. I get so bored if you just, put a vibrator on my crotch. I absolutely have to fantasize. It's best for me whenever my lover is constantly telling me things that turn me on. Because it really does get so many different parts of my mind going. I found that with erotic hypnosis can really help with this, because you're in this focused state. And then your mind doesn't go off. And if you're doing things in that focused state that turn you on, oh my God, yeah, no, you're gonna stay in that zone.
Thank you.
Sure. You next?
Say just what you said.
Oh, okay. Next. No. Talk into the mic a little more. It's hard for me to hear you.
How about this?
Okay.
Sure. I just want to say a couple of things that have popped into my mind throughout the
Okay.
presentations. First of all, about groups that still go by their old newsgroup names. There are a lot.
Really? Tell me some of the other ones.
Literotica groups.
Oh yeah, Literotic is great.
Alt Sex Stories still goes by ASS or...
That's true. ASSTR. I love ASSTR. The beginning of their website has that really hot chick with the purple blanket.
Yeah.
I love that thing. They had that in 2000. She's just like kind of holding it in this purple blanket, and she's all coy, and it leaves so much to your imagination. It's wonderful.
Yeah, but on the other hand, if you use a tab web browser, their fave icon is just a picture of an ass. So anyway,
That's right, it is.
someone might notice.
So what?
Well, depending on where you are.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, yeah.
Another comment would be about a girl who has problems coming from intercourse.
Mm-hmm.
My advice would definitely be to try to bring in the mind more. That you can get a lot of the way.
Get her hotter before you try to get her off. I definitely know that's one thing that sometimes if I get bored in sex, I'll admit sometimes I just want to get it over with, especially if you fuck long enough and hard enough, it starts to hurt after a while. I found that even that, like as you said, talk to her more, get her hotter before you even put your dick in her. It can really, really help. I mean, if she's like, get her so bad that she's like shaking and, okay, no, you come here, you fuck me now, please, please, please. That helps.
And if she uses those exact words, it helps you too.
There you go.
And the last thing I wanted to say was in regards to butt sex.
Yay.
Where the one thing I wanted to say was that you probably want to spend some time trying to pick out the right lube. That,
Yes, I should have mentioned that. You're right.
That, for instance, if you're not afraid of, if you're not using condoms for whatever reason, and you don't need to worry about oil-based lubes, that they
Yep.
are entirely different as far as when they dry and stuff like that.
I've never used oil-based lubes mainly because I always am using condoms and I'm always using some kind of barrier in the butt. However, if you're not using a silicone dildo, silicone lubes are absolutely fantastic. They don't get sticky, they don't get tacky, they don't dry out. They only come off when you wash them off with soap and water, which means if you're using in the tub, be very careful because there have been plenty of people who have gotten on the bottoms of their tubs, slipped and fell. Yeah, whoops, yeah. You don't want to hit yourself on your head. That's a bad thing.
Or worse, you gotta land on your heart.
Just to say something about lube.
Sure.
Silicone, which is a great dildo manufacturer.
All of my dildos are Tantus. I love them.
One of the great things about their silicone dildos is you can use them with Eros and other premium silicone lubes. They determine they're totally compatible.
Okay, I personally, because I don't have that much money, I just stay away from it completely. Some people say, well, it's food grade versus medical grade, and depending on which silicone lubes you're using, I just personally stay away from them completely.
Yeah, understandable, but just to say that for people that
Okay.
love the silicone and silicone.
Well, here's the thing which you can do. You can also throw a condom on your silicone dildo. That's how sometimes I'll do that. I have a friend who's actually also a hacker, and he's like, we were going to use his condoms. He was going to use a silicone dildo and a silicone lube, and I'm like, dude, you know you can't do that. He's like, well, I'm an IT professional. I make a decent amount of money. It's like, I'm not like you. I'm not going to I'm not trying to pass my dildos down to my grandchildren. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Wait, what? So yeah, I mean, it's not like you touch the silicone lube to it and it just melts instantly into a puddle of goo. It just starts to eat away at it. So if you're willing, if you are a person of such means that you're willing to replace your silicone dildos every now and then, if you're not like me who wants to pass them down to their grandchildren apparently, yeah, okay, go for it. Just be aware of this. Know what's going to happen.
But it's not just that. It literally does eat holes in
Yeah, no, it literally can. I think they're mainly small holes. Yes, much more difficult to sterilize.
What I was going to say before, well, not before, but what was waiting, was talking about the whole ADD/whatever. I mean, I have ADHD, which is
Me too.
basically the same thing with hyperactivity.
Yeah, I have that too, actually.
Fortunately, it hasn't really given me a lot of problems re the bedroom, but in general, it can be an issue for some people. I've actually seen situations where some people have had issues because of that sort of thing. I've been lucky that it never caused much of a problem in that respect. As far as medication, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I actually, as a kid, nothing seemed to work. As an adult, I actually do take something, and it's helped quite a bit. So you never know. Things are going on one way. If you tried to get it treated years ago, and you didn't have much luck, try again. You may do much better.
Yeah. Also, I've had people. I know someone who had ADHD who was taking Adderall, and he said that when he was on it, he could not get hard, at all. So some people do have sexual side effects from it.
Other people seems to help that to some degree.
Yeah,
Kinda funny.
it is kind of funny. The human body's an interesting thing that way.
Adderall's what I've been using, and I've been very good with this stuff as far as having my head work better.
There you go. Hi.
I just wanted to comment, you mentioned Bayland and Good Vibrations. They have significant online presences.
They do.
also have very educational blogs. And if you have a sex blog, you can often get in the business of reviewing toys and getting those kinds of things. How many people here are from New York? Okay. Since this conference takes place in New York, I just want to mention the local organizations. All 501c3s, the Eulenspiegel Society,
AKA
Test.org.
Test, yes.
Did you mention these already?
No, unfortunately I didn't because I didn't have time, but yeah.
Lesbian Sex Mafia.
Do they still meet?
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
They had a meeting last night.
And if I may ask, are they just lesbian or are they any women who
It's
partner with women?
Or people who identify as female.
Okay.
And also Dom Sub Friends.
Okay.
So I know Alita Wolf does a leather calendar. I do a calendar. If you look at those sites, you'll find a lot of places or organizations to meet in person.
In Washington, D.C., just to add on to that, because this is where I know, we have Black Rose, which is I think it's br.org. We have there's a group called Dark Odyssey, which goes also into polyamory and tantric and sexual spiritual things, and they have a DC-based happy hour every Thursday. There is the Crucible, which hosts not only BDSM events, but also swingers events and other kinds of sexual things. And there is a wonderful calendar online of just about every single fucking kinky thing that ever happens in DC, either whether it's kinky or the leather community or something, and it's put together by a wonderful lady named Free. And for the life of me, I don't remember the URL. The one thing I don't like about her calendar is she doesn't have an RSS feed. It's kind of sad. It would be nice if she had some kind of RSS on that, or did it in Google Calendar or something. I think it's dcbdsm.org, I think. But if you look up DCBDSM calendar, I mean, it's literally so packed that every single night has something going on. Because I believe she also includes WHIP, West Virginia Humans into Perversions. She includes BESS, which is the Baltimore Educational and Social Society, which is their BDSM organization. So that'll get you going, at least in my area. And if anyone else is from any other area and would like to come up and talk about their open sexual stuff in their area, please come on up and talk about it. Hi.
I just wanted to mention, just because I think it's odd, it hasn't been mentioned, but as far as the whole Dom sub thing goes, classic book, of course, is Story of O.
Yeah, Story of O is a very classic piece of erotica. Just probably a warning I should have given earlier. Erotica is not real life. Some of it can be based on real life. But a lot of it stuff goes down there that you really couldn't or shouldn't do in real life. And I think a lot of people forget this. It's very important to remember. You can get ideas from them, but kind of have to put them through the sane and consensual test before you actually go doing some of this stuff. Got quiet. Let's see. Oh. Is that my cue to get everyone the hell out of the room? Does anybody else have any other questions or things they'd like to say or questions stuff? Please, don't be shy. And of course, if you are shy and you'd like to come up and ask me stuff or email me with stuff, go right ahead. My email address is kwolflame@gmail.com. Hi.
What kind of effects can changing into an open relationship have on a closed relationship?
Ooh, that's a big question.
How risky is it?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
How risky is it if it's like initially one-sided or I don't know, just looking for an
It can have many different effects. There are whole books written on just that subject. So let me try to go into some of the basic stuff. Personally, I'm not the best person to ask about this because when I start entering into relationships, I say I'm only entering into open relationships, and if a closed relationship is what you need, then we're not going to be able to be together because I just can't do that. In any kind of open relationship, there can always be feelings of jealousy. There are people who are like, poly people don't get jealous. Point and laugh at them. It's just not true. Poly people do get jealous. I get jealous. I mean, everyone does. It's to the degree. Jealousy can arise, but unlike when you're in therapy, you learn that you have to own your own emotions, that, my emotions are my own, and I have to learn how to deal with them. For some reason, in our society, we don't teach that about jealousy. We say, well, you made me jealous, so you have to stop doing that. And no, jealousy is an emotion of yourself, and it's important to. The book on Ethical Slut has an entire really, really, really good chapter on jealousy that I would really like to give to a whole bunch of monogamous couples and be like, yeah, you know what? That whole jealousy thing you're doing, it's driving everyone else around you fucking nuts. Please read this. You don't have to become open. Just knock it off with the jealousy crap. You love each other. Fucking trust each other already, Which obviously isn't always going to be those helpful advice. But seriously, reading the book is great. There's jealousy issues. There's issues of, one of the big issues that happens with open relationship is just time. I mean, as much as someone might like to have 5 lovers, there are 24 hours in a day, there are 7 days in a week. And in there, you've got to sleep, you've got to eat, you've got to go to the bathroom, and most likely you've got to go to work. Or you've got to, care for the kids if you have them, or you have to keep house if you have it. I can really... Thank you, I'm so sorry. So there's the time constraint. There are jealousy issues that can be worked through. Well, not always. Some people can, some people can't. Other things about going open. Some people say that, if we're going to be poly, we're going to set a certain amount of people and we all have to love each other. Some people say, hey, you know what? I want to be with you, but yeah, go ahead. Fuck whoever the hell else you want on the side. Some people fuck whoever the hell else you want on the side, just don't let me know. Many people have found that this is oftentimes not the best way to go about it. Some people, this is the only way they can do it. If it actually ends up working for you, great, but for many people, they find that this doesn't end up working. Because of the whole, you hear that your lover has another lover, and you automatically assume that they're hotter than Cindy Crawford and smarter than Einstein and just so much better than you, and then you end up feeling like, oh, I can't compete with them, and blah, 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 blah. Getting to know your partners is a wonderful thing, because you find out, hey, look, they're a person too. How do you like that, And oftentimes, you'll have many things in common until you end up becoming good friends with each other. My current lover, Winter Rose, he met my old, we call each other companion. We never actually end up having sex, but my old lover, and he goes by Nye, and they hit it off well as friends. They're great friends, and there's something in the poly community that's called compersion. It's basically the opposite of jealousy, when you're happy about your lovers being happy with their other lovers, and there's a slang term called frubbles, and to see Winter Rose and Nye, palling around and being friends just fills me with frubbles. It's wonderful. So, did I answer your question? Yeah. Honestly, a lot of what I just said to you, I specifically remember reading in the Ethical Slut. So, I highly recommend perusing the book.
In the world of poly, is it mostly people who are really on both sides for one? Is there loving one person, having sex with a bunch, and feeling okay with being distinctive?
There's as many styles of poly as there are that you can think of, to be honest with you. There are some people who be like, well, you all have to be in love or it's not really poly. I laugh at these people. There are some places that poly has a very distinctive definition that this is what it means, and anything else outside that might be an open relationship, it might be non-monogamous, it's not poly. There are places that include any kind of ethical sleeping around as poly. So pretty much your answer is yes. Yes, all of the above, yes. If you can imagine it and you can make it work for you, you can do it. I mean, it's all about you realizing, you choosing your own relationship style, and you saying, hey, you know what, fuck this. I'm going to do what works for me, and that's why I became poly. I'll be honest, I became poly because I was cheating on my boyfriend. He was a dick in the end. I dumped him. However, I realized that, you know what, in the future, if I'm going to love someone, I don't want to hide it from them. Fuck no. I'd rather tell them straight out and hope to God they understand. And that's why I went down the non-monogamy road. because I realized, you know what, if I love someone, they deserve to know the truth. And hopefully they'll be okay with that. You know, the truth will set you free thing. Hi. See, I'm a little envious of you. I wish I was the one standing up there just walking around with the mic and stuff, yeah.
I apologize, sorry.
Don't.
The brain machine took way too long to make them like pockets. So,
The brain machine?
Yeah.
What brain machine?
That one that I made right there. So, yeah.
What are you pointing at? Oh, what? Oh, those. Oh, you made that?
Yes.
But okay, now here's what's really cool. My hypnotherapist friend has a professional version of this with earphones and headphones for binaural inductions, which is tones going on in both ears, and I've played with them before.
They don't necessarily work with ADD or ADHD people.
Personally, I fucking hate those lights because they're way too bright and they hurt my eyes. I don't know about that specific one, but I don't have time to talk really much about hypnosis. There are multiple types of inductions, and one of them is a confusion induction, where basically you get the mind so fucking muddled that it's just trying to keep up and doing something, and then you tell them to go down. And they're like, oh, thank God, I can let go of all and just relax, and they go into hypnosis. There are types, and there are many other types. There are types, the whole swinging watch stereotype. Yeah, that's actually a form of hypnosis you can do. I found personally with me, I absolutely hate the confusion inductions because it works, but I'm also, when I get down, that I'm not feeling good. And I'm not going to do it if it doesn't feel good. Fuck that noise. And I've found that the blinking of the lights and the pulsating of the different sounds from it just doesn't do it for me. But you know what? There are people who totally swear by those things. Oh my God, I've heard the stories. I'm sorry, did I say something wrong?
Great tangent. It was really great. I mean,
I'm sorry, I tangent. Did I forget to say that? I tangent a lot.
No, just one thing to expand on your question and all that, going from mono to poly. And like I said, sorry I wasn't here at the beginning. So,
don't apologize.
I may be repeating something, but really communicate with your partner that you're wanting to go from mono to poly, as well as figure out what your ground rules are, what your hard limits are. Basically, like, for example, only women come in as a poly for your extra partner, or if it's okay with couples or even a single male. Just make sure that you have your ground rules set, because there is nothing more freakier than to have set your ground rules and then all of a sudden your partner's going off and doing something that was totally unexpected and just it really messes with their head. But yeah.
This is good prevailing wisdom. Personally, I know from my own personal experiences that when I started, I didn't know where my boundaries were. Know that at the beginning, if you don't have all of your rules set in stone, it's gonna happen and you're gonna hit a landmine. It's just part of the experience. You could talk as much as you want. You could say you're gonna be okay, and then when it happens, you're an absolute wreck.
Yes.
So, I mean, people say, figure out your ground rules before you start. This is good. Just know that, yeah, this is gonna happen. Personally, this is my own personal feelings about poly. The reason that I am non-monogamous is because of a feminist belief that I own my own body and only I can say what I do with it. That includes who I love and who I fuck. So, whereas ground rules is such as, we can do it together, but we can't do it if you're not around. These are things that personally I have a problem with, because it's like, I'm sorry, I thought I owned my own body. I thought I decided what I could do with it. I personally don't get a lot of monogamous relationships when people say that, you can't do this and you can't do that. It's just foreign to me. And if you can explain it to me and make me understand, I'd love to know. But, people, you've got to do what works for you. This is why I'm saying this personally is my thing. Please don't try to follow that if that's not your thing. Do what works for you.
Just one other extra thing. If one of those things, ground rules, whatever you said, doesn't happen, don't flip out right there. Just, when it's done and over with, let them enjoy it, and just later on talk to them about it. Because there's nothing more, it makes you, the person that's flipping out, look more of an ass than that person is.
Absolutely.
So just go ahead and.
And it could also make the partner that you're there with.
Well, yeah, it also affects that person, yeah. It also affects that person.
Yeah,
just basically your vibes just kind of go out and ruins the whole area.
Also, I've been a secondary in a lot of relationships recently, it seems like. And something that the ethical slut touched on at one point, but I found there really is no good book on polyamory for being the secondary. There is no good book. I'd write it myself, but I want the book, you know? I want someone else to be giving me this really great advice on how to be a secondary. But as a secondary, you have rights too. If, let's say, you know, this was the example in the ethical slut. You make a date with the person that you're the secondary to, and their other partner makes a date, and they always say that they're only going to go out on dates on the same nights, that you guys don't feel bad about it. And then their other date canceled, so then they start canceling with you. Well, they start fucking with you here, and just because you're secondary doesn't mean you're the homewrecker. It doesn't mean you don't have rights. It doesn't mean that you don't have a right to say, hey, listen, this is messing with me now, and you can't keep doing this. It's really important to be able to set your own ground rules and stand up for yourself and ask for what you need as a secondary. Thank you so much.
Since you're saying the secondaries can be under stress, is it, I suppose, risky to take someone who's mono as a secondary, or does that usually cause drama?
It can cause drama. Preferably if someone's a secondary, you do need to let them know, you know, you have other partners. Well, monogamous basically means that you're not going to have any other partners and they're not going to have any partners either, so they're not going to be monogamous. You certainly could take someone on that doesn't have any other partners. But I've certainly been in that situation where I've been a secondary and haven't any other partners, and I'll be honest, it hurt. I was at a place that I really needed a relationship. I really needed someone to love me. And my secondaries, the people who were in a secondary type relationship with me, and I was their secondary, just didn't have the resources. Like I said, time. Because there's always the big time thing. You know, you go to work, you drive to see the person, and it can be rough. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's all about knowing what you want from a relationship and then sticking by that. And if you find that what you learned from a relationship is different, if it changes and you just can't have that, don't kid yourself. It's so hard. Personally, oh God, it's so hard for me not to kid myself. I oftentimes have a difficulty ending relationships when they're not working because I just want to be able to kid myself because I know what I want. And it's so important to be honest with yourself. Anything else? This could be something else because I'm trying to open this document. I'm trying to use this pad and I'm having some difficulty with it. There we are. That's better. Open with WordPad. There we are. Any other questions? Any other comments or anything? Okay. Did I get to mention any of the books that I like? Oh, the authors of The Ethical Slut, which is Dossie Easton and Catherine A. List, who's actually Janet Hardy writing under a pen name. I adore these authors more than anything, and you know, if I met them, I swear to God, I'd kiss their feet. They write very well. They've also written books called The New Topping Book and The New Bottoming Book, and The New Topping Book is not about pizza. As one of my friends once said when I was writing about him. I was writing about it, and he's like, is there something wrong that I thought about pizza? And I wrote back, I'm like, dude, olives, onions, mushrooms, and sausage for the win. It's about BDSM. And they write a bunch of other books that are really, really wonderful. I can't recommend Janet Hardy or Dossie Easton's works anymore highly than I already have. There's a book called Screw the Roses, Send Me the Thorns, which I honestly have never read. And if anybody has, you know, let me know how it was and if it was good. I've thumbed through it. It seems to be more of a how-to book, whereas the New Topping and New Bottoming book is more about theory and about mind spaces and stuff like that. Trying to think of other favorite sex books on my shelf. I'm big into gender, so I love Kate Bornstein. I love the Gender Workbook. I like Patrick Califia's works, Macho Sluts, Doing It for Daddy, which are both erotic books. Speaking Sex to Power, which is a really great book on theory, which goes places that even makes me nervous and uncomfortable talking about sexuality, and that's saying something. Trying to think of some of my other absolute favorite books, the ones I like having with me when I can. Anyone else out here have any really good books that they've read about sex? Like to mention? Let's see here. Go ahead.
I was at Test Fest last weekend, and
How was that, by the way?
it was awesome.
Awesome.
One of the things that was mentioned was the bottoming book and the topping book.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which actually I just mentioned. That was the older version.
Yeah.
The new topping book and the new bottoming book is the same thing, just updated versions.
And Dossie Easton teaches at Dark Odyssey quite often.
Yeah, I know. I didn't get to go see her. It was so sad.
Lady Loretha taught at Spring Fire.
Mhm.
Dark Odyssey Spring Fire. So
Oh,
they
she did.
They do teach in a number.
That's actually how I met her, because she was there. Let's see here. Okay, I'll just briefly read off my like more info. General sexual info and advice. There's a website called scarletteen.com, written by a woman named Heather Corinna. Yeah, it says teen in it. Just ignore it says teen. I go to it when I need straight up sexual information. Oh, hold on a sec. Options, word wrap. Thank you. There we go. It's written by Heather Corinna, who also writes a site called Scarlet Letters, which is a wonderful site of erotica. She wrote Scarlet Teen because she's had all these teenagers coming to her asking her for general sexual advice. Because, I mean, if you look up sex on the internet, what do you get? You get crappy-ass porn. Well, maybe good porn, depending on what you're into. But it's really hard to get just, good sexual information from someone you can trust, which is why she started up Scarlet Teen. It's fantastic. One of my favorite blogs is Susie Bright's blog. I love Susie Bright. But she also talks about politics. Sometimes she talks about really good sounding recipes. I've got to try sometimes. She's a very prolific writer. She's written a number of books on sexuality. I think she's wonderful. I don't have the URL for that off the top of my head, but if you look it up, it comes up. There's a lady named Violet Blue who has a website, tinynibbles.com, which is called Open Source Sexuality. I think she's covered Hope for Wired before, if I'm not mistaken. She's a good one. Okay, I already talked about erotic hypnosis. Let's see here. Winter Rose's Mind Control Fact. Yes, this is my lover, but he really writes well, I have to admit, which includes erotic hypnotism on it. There is a Yahoo group for the virtual hypnotist, which is a freeware program. The program allows you to hypnotize yourself with a spiral and words on the screen. The author of the program is into erotic hypnotism himself, and the sister group to this virtual hypnotist group, which is named Hypnotic Words, is full of free scripts for it, and most of them are erotic. So
What's the name of the first one?
Virtual Hypnotist. The Yahoo group is, let's see, it's a long one, health.groups.yahoo.com/group/virtual hypnotist. There is an erotic hypnosis e-zine, which is at hypnosisaddiction.com, which I don't know how ethical they are. I haven't actually had the chance to check that out, but it got thrown out there. There is the Mind Control Story Archives Forum, which is mcforum.net, which is also a really great place to go if you're into erotic hypnosis. Let's see here. Low battery. Oh, dear. Another great sex toy, sex/sexual information website, Blowfish. Blowfish is great. They don't have an offline store. They're just an online store that I know of. But they also have the real good, sexual education, as well as selling sex toys mindset. And they have a place with erotica and stuff like that, which mainly written, and I totally forget what it's called. Do you remember it?
Thomas Roche is one of the contributors for the Blowfish.
Okay.
Also Eden Fantasies.
Okay.
Also Vibe Review is a new online store that has sex toys.
Cool.
I think Sex Shop 360, but I think they're based out of London.
Okay. Yeah, I can go into a number of really cool London places. Lovehoney.co.uk is not quite up to the par of like Blowfish and Babeland, but they're really starting to get there. Let's see here.
Can I also recommend Corey Silverberg, who's the sexuality guide at about.com?
Oh my God, yes, please do. Please recommend. Surprisingly, about.com used to be crap. I did some of my research for my main talk on about.com. I learned a ton about Tantra. It is fantastic. Look up sexual issues on there. Also, I think sexuality.org has a bunch of interesting things. Unfortunately, my only problem with them is they don't cover as many cities as I'd like them to. Let's see here. BDSM. I mentioned Tess. I mentioned Black Rose and Dark Odyssey. I mentioned Bess. I mentioned Whip already. Unfortunately, I wish I knew the BDSM groups in other places around the country and around the world. Sexuality and spirituality. Barbara Corellis or Correas?
Barbara Corellis.
Corellis, is that how she pronounces it? Urban Tantra, right?
Urban Tantra.
And Annie Sprinkle used to be really into this. I don't know if she still is into the whole sexuality, spirituality thing.
She's at the Baltimore Erotic Art Festival this week.
Oh my God, she's that close to where I lived? Oh man, and I'm up here. That's so not fair. For body modifications, a local group for me is Sacred Mark Sanctuary. I'll admit I haven't really looked much about my outside area of this. I just know them because I know a number of people who do their stuff. I wish I had a really good link for sexual role play. I don't. I can do some research. I don't have a really good link for sexual techniques. Something that I wanted to mention about that is there's a gazillion and one different techniques out there. And I have to admit, my favorite, the one that gets me off the most, is just simple missionary. It's okay to have sex in missionary position. If it works for you, please do it. Somebody already mentioned slash dong. There's a Wired article, the ins and outs of teledildonics. And here's the about.com thing I mentioned. TinyNibbles.com has something on teledildonics. For the technosexual ASFRs, there's Fembot Central, and there's a documentary called ASFR by Allison DeFriend, if you can find it. And God, if you can find it, let me know. I can't find it anywhere.
Could I also mention Regina Lynn, who writes the sex technology column for Wired? She's at some conference in Nevada this week.
Oh, it's a shame
having
she
to do
couldn't
with
be
sex
here.
Toys, so she wrote a whole article that I linked to.
Excellent. That's a good idea. And the tablet I was using just died, so I can't continue rattling off my links. That's pretty much all that I have for right now. I'm pretty much talked out, unless you really want me to start going into other things too. If you have any other questions. I mean, you guys are starting to look pretty tired here. I'm sorry, what, Daniel? Oh, God, FetLife. Why did I not mention that? It's a brand new site that I've spent most of my time on. I'm sure when I get back, I'm going to have a gazillion emails from them of the discussion. FetLife is wonderful. FetLife is pretty much a social networking website that doesn't suck because it's written by geeks and it's written by actual fetish people. So instead of being by a bunch of people trying to make money, it's free. They say it's always going to be free, and it's totally free the way that like YouTube is free. And they have a bunch of groups with really great discussions. Geeky and Kinky, or Kinky and Geeky, I forget what it's called, is having wonderful discussions, and I can't recommend them more. They're just fantastic, and I've been meeting some really great people, so thank you. Yes, I could ramble on about like FetLife all day because I love them.
John Baku, B-A-K-U, is on Twitter.
Yes, that's right. The guy who invented is on Twitter. And there's actually a whole group of people trying to get him to put up naughty pics. Let's see here. Is there anything else that I have? As I said before, if anyone's interested in talking to me privately, go right ahead. And that's pretty much all I have for right now. Unless you really want me to